Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Married Now Widowed. My name's Kayla.
And my name is Nadine, and this podcast is about navigating life after loss through unfiltered conversations.
Yes, we are back for our second episode. In this episode, we just want to dive into maybe like just the immediate events that occurred after, losing our loved ones and some of our experiences, what we felt, what we went through really in those first crucial stages, right?
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Definitely.
So my husband passed away, I think it was about 11 o'clock at night. I don't know why I think that. I don't even know if that's true, but I just feel like it was around that time. Right. That's just what I remember.
Were you on your own?
No, I wasn't actually. So my husband passed away in a hospital and we were surrounded with everybody, family, friends, distant relatives, everything. There was a lot of people there. And I think that night there was a lot of people. Even in the room, there was about, I'd say about 20 people in the hospital room. And the hospital room's tiny.
Had they given you a prognosis?
Yeah, but it was a bit difficult because for us, we were sort of constantly told different things. And, my husband, he was such a fighter. He continued to outlive every time. So it's not that it wasn't taken seriously. It was definitely taken seriously. And I think every time that myself or a family member was told something like that, it was taken seriously, but also we had been told that so many times.
And I think because you hear stories like this, you kind of hold on to that hope.
Of course you do.
Like I remember when we were given a prognosis and Mick was like, don't believe them. I could live for 5 years.
Absolutely.
I could live for 10 years.
Yeah.
Because you hear of these stories where people are given a prognosis and they're given this time and it's like, 1 year.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I'm 10 years and I'm still going.
And I think everyone this is like the wrong word choice that I'm going to use, but everyone G's you up about it, right? So especially people that have been through it.
And I think they just give you hope. Like
they
don't give up. That's why they G you up,
and
right?
everyone says the same thing. I was sick. My doctor told me 6 months. Look at me. 20 years later, I'm cured. You hear that story everywhere.
That's
so it's sort of embedded in you not to believe it, but also you don't want to. It's like your denial, or defense mechanism that you just don't listen to it. So we were definitely warned many, many times. And I'm talking like, I remember one time years before he passed away, they told us like, 6 months, so it was like a long time. But that hospital stay in particular, because he had stayed in hospital many times, was obviously more serious. Yeah. And I think we had never sort of been told days. It was always months to a year. Do you know what I mean? So I think that in your head, you buy time and you're like, okay, that's right, we've got it. We're going to figure it out. We're going to talk to a billion doctors. We're going to try every trial drug in the world. We're going to do all this stuff. But then, we had not been told days before. Like, as in no one ever told us like a few days or a week or whatever.
So at that time, you had not received a prognosis?
No, we had. We had, but I mean in the past, they hadn't given such a short time frame. We were definitely aware, and obviously, not obviously, because some people don't know if they haven't been through it, but when someone dies in a hospital, obviously they're heavily monitored. So you sort of know at every stage what's happening. There's someone to ask. It's not like, some people obviously choose to, the person chooses to pass at home or their loved ones take them home. So you don't really know. They could pass in their sleep or whatever. But I think when you're in a hospital setting, you're so heavily monitored that you sort of know. You can ask every half hour what's their heart rate, what's their oxygen levels. So you kind of know that stuff. When he passed away, there were a lot of people around, which I think was nice because he was surrounded by everyone,
loved ones,
which was amazing. And that was very typical of my husband, who was always around a lot of people. You always find him at a cafe with all his friends. And he has a lot of family, lots of cousins that he was super close to, and all that. So Yeah, no, he was with people. And I think for me, so I've never lost anyone close to me. That sounds like bad because I have lost 2 of my grandparents, but it was quite a while ago and I can't say that I was close to them. Yeah. Like they were definitely in my life. I used to see them, whatever, but not like a love, like obviously love them, but not.
Do you feel like a loss of a grandparent is very different to
100%,
a loss of
totally,
like your husband?
My husband's in my life all day, every day. Yeah. You're close, very close. I think it's like you could sort of compare it to maybe losing a very, very close friend, like your best friend for like since your childhood, kind of that sort of instance.
I know
Whereas I think grandparents, some people are really close to their grandparents, so it would be, maybe like that for them. But for me personally, I'd never lost anyone. Yeah. And my background is Greek. So, and my family is Orthodox. So the way that my family have done things in terms of funerals and stuff is very different. Yeah. So I've never been to a Muslim funeral in my life. Yeah. So it's very shocking for me. And to be honest with you, I don't know, I had never even looked into what is a Muslim funeral like. Yeah. I don't know. I just never.
It's probably not something that you would have thought about.
Definitely.
I know, like, they're sick, right? Well, they've got cancer.
Yeah.
And so I think that, I know for myself, like, I never thought about, did it cross my mind that he would pass? Yes, it did.
Of course, yeah.
But I'd always kind of snap myself out of it.
Absolutely.
So I don't think I really thought that far ahead.
And you know what? On that, a lot of people, not our families, but maybe a lot of people that are not close to us have said so many times, but surely you were expecting this. No, I know he's sick, but there are a lot of sick people that don't pass away.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? So no, I wasn't, thank you very much, expecting it. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people have said that. But sure, but you knew you were ready for someone to pass away.
You're never going to be ready.
What does that mean?
Even if you did know, and even if they gave you a prognosis of, you're still never going to be ready.
You could tell someone, oh, your loved one is going to pass in the next 20 minutes. They're still not ready for it.
Okay, so take Mick. They gave me, they said to me anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks.
So I just want to point out, Mick was the whole from diagnosis to passing was very fast compared to me.
Like 9 months.
That's quick. Yeah. That's really quick. Yeah. That's shocking.
It
really
is. But my point to that is, even though like Muhammad was sick for how many years?
7.
Okay.
7 or 8. Yeah.
Right. You're still not going to be prepared.
Of course not.
Like I was given 2 days. You're like 2 days, anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks. I'm still not prepared for that.
You'll never be prepared.
I'm never going to be prepared
But I think that's a misconception. Definitely. That a lot of people think that it's such a backhanded comment. I get it all the time. Oh, but you knew. You would have known. You would have been expecting it.
But even if you did know.
Doesn't make it any better.
Doesn't make it any easier.
Yeah,
exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for me, I remember, I'm a smoker, right? So smoking for me is my stress relief. I mean, I smoke when I'm happy, so I'm not going to blame it on that. Yeah. But, when I'm really stressed out, that's my go-to, right? I'm like, I need a cigarette. Someone give me a cigarette, right?
Yeah.
So I remember when he passed away, 2 things. The first thing, my whole life, I've had anxiety. I'm like anxiety ridden. I'm always stressed. Yeah. And I'm always anxious about, I don't even know what. I can just wake up and I'm like, oh, something's not going to go right today. Really? I'm just anxious. I just don't feel well. I'm anxious. And 9 times out of 10, the day's fine. Nothing's wrong. But I have a lot of anxiety. And I always used to think, oh no, like I can't. If something happens to him, I'll stop breathing because I get really, like my chest gets really tight. That's one symptom of my anxiety. And I find myself really short of breath. And I remember thinking, selfishly, I'm thinking about myself, right? Because I'm like, no. If something happens to him, I'm going to stop. No, like you guys don't understand. It's a condition. I have a condition. I'm not going to be able to breathe.
But
right?
sorry, you're not being selfish in that moment, right? Because you obviously are thinking about them, like
of course.
You are going to be thinking about like the amount of times that we would have thought, fuck, what am I going to do what am I going to do if I lose him?
Of course.
How am I going to go about my life if I lose him? That's not selfish.
No, it's not selfish. That's true. Yeah, selfish might be not the best word to use.
I get what you mean though.
Yeah, but mine was, okay, also the future, what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to my kid, whatever. But it was very moment thing. It was like, oh no, if he passes away, I'm not going to like, do you guys understand what I was like stressed. I was like
what you felt was that if he passes, you felt that you were going to lose your breath in that moment.
Yeah, and like not even like a dramatic like, no, I'm not going to be, no, guys, like, I will stop breathing.
I have no voice, nothing will come out of my mouth, not even air.
Someone needs to like, okay, example,
I know what
right?
you mean, yeah.
When I was giving birth, I did emergency C-section. When I was having the C-section, I was so anxious that they had to inject me with something to chill me out. Like I'm just a very anxious person. So I genuinely thought, oh no, I can't go through this. Like I'm not going to make it, right? And I never forget when in the exact moment that he passed away, is so weird. The first thing I thought was, oh my God, I'm still breathing. This is weird. How come I can breathe? It was very weird. I was like, full breaths. Everything's working.
So you genuinely thought you were going to stop breathing. I can't explain it.
It was, yes, babe. I actually thought, forget the heartbreak, the sad, okay. But no, like someone's going to have to help me because I can't breathe. I get anxiety. My chest gets really tight and I'm not going to be able to do it. So I'll never forget that first moment. That was my first thought. I was like, oh, I can breathe. Okay, this is weird. I'm okay. I'm walking. This is weird. What's happening? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that was like it was strange. And I still can't believe I'm like, how did I make it through that moment? And I feel like, although I would give anything, obviously, to have not gone through that, now I feel like I'm fine through anything. I'm good. I'm not going to get anxiety and I'll survive. I'll be fine. There's nothing that you can do to me, no work issue, no relationship issue, no family, nothing that I will not.
It's because you have gone through the hardest time in your life.
Absolutely.
So now it's like, throw anything at me. Yeah. I know that I will overcome it. If I can get through that moment, then I can get through anything.
Absolutely. Except my child. Still.
Oh,
kids aside,
of course.
Anything else?
Yes. Like, I mean, anything day to day, whether that be, business related, family related, friend,
but even
whatever.
Sickness and health of another family member or another, I have different strength now, just not my kid. That's it.
Yes. 100%.
Kid aside, everything else, I feel like, you know what? I can cope. I've got this. I have strength to.
Isn't it weird? You get this strength.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't know where it comes from.
I know.
Honestly. You don't know where it comes from.
I know. I used to tell my husband all the time, like I didn't want to stress him out because I know he was already stressed about if something happens to him, what's going to happen to me. But I used to tell him all the time, no, you can't. Like, I'm not going to be okay. You can't. And it's so weird. This is so weird, but it's almost a sense of like guilt that I have because I'm like.
In what way?
Like, I'm still breathing. I'm still alive. Yep. So, like, what I said wasn't true. Like, I feel a bit of, I have like, it's weird, but it's something you'll only understand if we get guilty about a lot of stuff and everyone else would think, no, that's crazy. You're guilty that you lived after your husband. Yeah. But it's like, I am because I was so certain that I could not cope. And then when he passed away and I am coping, there's like a bit of guilt that you have because I'm like, it's weird. I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's weird. It's a bit like.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think, do you feel like because he's passed also and that you're still here and you know, with your son and he's not given that opportunity to?
No, my guilt comes from you expect yourself to never be able to like get up again, do anything. I'm never going to be able to eat again. I'm never going to go for a dinner. That's crazy. I'll never be able to smile, laugh, definitely not. But you do all those things and you
have to.
You do, and it's okay and it feels fine.
Yeah.
But there's sometimes a little bit of guilt, and it's like sometimes you think like, this just sounds crazy.
No,
but I hope
get it.
He does know how much I love him and how much everything affected him.
Not just that, like
affected me.
Throughout, like after Mick passed, I would always think if there was ever a decision that I had to make or ever, you know, something to do with the kids or even business related or whatever it was, I would always think, what would he want me to do?
Of course.
And then I would make that decision.
Yeah.
Either things that we have already discussed, which I knew, or things that even we hadn't discussed. And I'd be like, what would Mick want me to do?
Yeah.
What, like if I had a decision to make, you know? But beyond that, they wouldn't want us to be miserable. They wouldn't want us to not smile. They wouldn't want us to,
of course,
get up and go to a dinner, or like they're not going to want us to be at home and be depressed.
Of course, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Of course, but
I know that you can't help but feel guilty, and I felt a lot of that within that first year.
Yeah.
Like
the first year for sure.
I like looking back at that first year now, I cannot tell you how I was so depressed.
Yeah, of course.
But not just obviously depressed because I had lost him.
Yeah.
But depressed because I was so worried about judgment. And we'll get into that in another episode.
Yeah.
But the judgment was just, it was killing me.
Yeah.
Killing me.
Yeah.
If I, as far as went to take my daughter to the movies, it was like people were judging me.
Yeah.
It was anything. It was anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
I mean, I think we have to dedicate a whole episode to that, right? Because there's a lot of, I think people put a lot of guilt onto you that maybe you necessarily don't actually feel yourself, but you're sort of forced into feeling it because their opinions are so heavy on you because they really, push it onto you and they talk about you and they whatever.
And at the end of the day though, like, wouldn't you want me to smile?
No.
Wouldn't you want me to take my child to the movies?
No, of course not.
Wouldn't you want me to go out to a dinner with my girlfriends and just try and live a normal life?
No. People want you to do
what
they want you to do when they want you to do it, right? So if they see you happy, it's like, oh, she's happy. It's not okay with them.
No, but then if they see you at a dinner, it's like, oh, she's already moved on.
Yeah, of course. But then if they see you crying a year later or 2 years later, it's like, what's wrong with her? Isn't she over it? But people and their opinions are their opinions and they should just learn to keep them to themselves. But they never will because that's how people are. But for me, honestly, I don't care what people say. Couldn't care less, right? My guilt is like my weird, like internal stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. And it makes sense. I get it.
Yeah.
It's like, I think you expect the worst from yourself after they pass. You're expecting to be in the gutter somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you're not,
right,
you feel so guilty because you're like, should I be crying more?
But it's also, I just want to point out, it doesn't mean that you're not in pain, that you're not hurting.
Of course not.
That it doesn't mean that you're not crushed, right?
Of course not.
It's that your soul is not crushed.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that. It just means that that's how you're handling it. That's how you're dealing with it.
And people deal with it differently.
Correct.
And people need to understand that for themselves. Understand it for yourself. Definitely. That not everyone deals with stuff the way that you do or that you want them to do. And it'll help you grow as a person.
That's
do you know what
exactly
I mean?
Right.
If you feel like I didn't deal with it the same way that you have because you see me out at a restaurant or whatever, that's fine. Your opinion's not going to affect me, but you should use it to actually do some self-growth, really, and maybe become a little bit of a better person and be less judgmental, because we need like better people in the world. So I think that people that do that, they should self-reflect, because someone like me personally, I don't get affected, but very rarely does someone else's opinion affect me, especially if I don't care about you and I don't care about a lot of people. That's the truth, babe. I have like a super close circle, super close family. Everyone else, I don't care about your opinion. And like, I'm not going to care about a stranger's opinion that I've never met in my life that sees me on Instagram going out to dinner. Couldn't care less, right? My mum affects me. If she had a negative opinion of me, that would affect me, because my mum, and I love her and we've got a good relationship, but there's not a lot of other people that would affect me, because you don't know me and you don't know what I've been through, and you don't see me at home. You don't see me when I'm miserable. You don't, you know. But yeah, guilt is like there's a lot of guilt, and I felt that a lot, especially as I said, that moment. I was like, why am I still breathing? It's weird. How come I'm not short of breath like I always am and about to pass out?
Like voice that with anybody, or was this just like internal thoughts at the time?
My husband and my sister-in-law. One of my sister-in-laws, I remember we were outside the hospital. We both smoke, so we did little smoke breaks together. We were sitting on a bench, and I was like to her, no, I don't think you understand. I won't be able to breathe. And a lot of people take that as like, because I'm so heartbroken. No. Physically, I don't think I will be able to breathe, because I get panic attacks. It's a real thing. I have the weirdest phobia of elevators, right? I can't go into an elevator. It's really weird.
Really?
Another story for another day. Again, panic attacks. Right. I haven't been in an elevator by myself ever in my whole life. I can't. I will faint. And that's the same thing I thought was going to happen with my husband. I was like, so I did tell my sister-in-law that, and probably my mum, because I told my mum like everything. But just, I used to think about it a lot. I used to be like, oh no, I'm not going to cope.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen to him. I'm going to fall on the floor. Like I'm going to have to, like, I'm not going to cope.
They're going to have to give me a bed in here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So then when I did, I was like, what's wrong with me? Weird. What's going on? Am I not? And I felt a little bit guilty. I did. And, you know, like I can't explain it. But honestly, and I don't really like to say this about myself, but I feel like I am really strong. I really am. And I probably didn't know how strong I was until.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. I think you don't realize how strong you are until you've like you're going through it.
Yeah.
And like when you somewhat slowly like are trying to live a normal life, you look back and you think, wow, I am strong.
Yeah.
But beyond that as well, how many people have said to you, oh my God, you're so strong. Oh my God, you're so strong.
A million.
So many people would say it to me. And I would sit there and I'd think, how am I strong?
Yeah.
How am I strong?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But again, you get given this strength.
You do.
And
really
maybe it's because we've got kids as well. Like,
that played a huge role for me.
Of course.
100%.
Of course.
My son at the time was, I think, 7 months old. So very in the phase of dependent upon me, right? So it wasn't like I could, you know, he couldn't do anything for himself. I was still there, he couldn't walk, he couldn't, you know, talk, couldn't feed himself, couldn't do anything. So I had to still.
You were still very hands-on.
You can't just forget your kids for a few weeks while you sort of, you know, I always tell people this when they talk about, because a lot of people point that out. A lot of people say your son's your strength. If it wasn't for him, you'd probably be in a much worse place, and I probably would. I remember after my husband passed away that night, I think I got home at about maybe 1:30, 2 o'clock. I remember I called one of my best friends, Kate, and after that, I think my son would have woken up back then about 6:30.
Yeah.
It was mum time. It was Coco Melon while I'm getting ready for a funeral. You know what I mean? There's no crying. I didn't want my son to be impacted.
Went into autopilot.
I felt like I had to though, because my son's happy. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know his dad's passed away. And I didn't want to bring those vibes on my kid, because I think that kids, you know, they work off energy from their mums.
Definitely.
And I didn't want that energy for him, because he doesn't know any better. He's happy, and I want to keep it that way, and I've kept it that way. He's now, you know, 2.5, and he's still the same happy kid, doesn't know any different, you know. So I think kids, and I remember I was telling you there was another lady at the cemetery who they'd buried someone as well, and his partner did not have children, and I think I bumped into them maybe a year and a half after he had passed away. And they were telling me, his wife's still in bed.
Wow.
Yeah. And I put that down to because you don't have children.
That's right. And I've always said, if I didn't have kids, I would probably be in a gutter somewhere.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You lose motivation.
Definitely.
You lose
you've got these, you know.
That you have to.
These little kids that you've got to look after, you've got to feed, you've got to, you know. And you don't want to change anything.
Of course not.
Like, not that you don't want to change anything for them, but you don't like the environment. Like you
want to keep it the same.
Yeah, definitely.
Because kids obviously are, you know, they thrive in stability, right? So you want to give them as much as that as possible, even though your whole world has just been turned upside down.
That's right.
In every way possible. Everything in like an instant is like, what's going on?
That's
everything changes, you know. And also, my husband would, I don't want to use the word be disappointed in me, but he would want me to have our son priority.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And make sure he's looked after, and you do everything that you need to make sure that he's okay. Yeah, you can't just, I would have felt bad if I just, you know, tossed him to my mom or to my in-laws for a little bit so I could have my own time. And I'm not saying if you've done that it's the wrong thing to do. You do what you need to do in your time. Yeah. But for me personally, like I had a job to do. Yeah. And that's my job, my priority. My job was to be a mum.
That's right.
You know? So, but there's two sides of the coin, right? There's, your kid helps you, but the other side. You're
also suppressing your feelings.
Everything gets suppressed, and you just put it in a box, throw it away. You're like, I'm not dealing with it, not now.
Another reason why I wanted to do this is because I feel like we both suppress our feelings because we've got children and we just need to power through and keep going.
Yeah.
I feel like this would be quite
and I feel like
therapeutic because, we're 100%. Opening up the box again.
And the only time we really ever open the box is at 2:00 in the morning when we're in my backyard. We're like crying and like, that's like the only time. Right. And then it's like, okay, bye babe, see you next week. And it's
put
like,
a lid on
back
it.
to normal. Yeah, we don't think about that anymore.
Yeah.
So what was like, what did Mick pass away in the hospital? Or?
So Mick passed away in the hospital. They had given the prognosis. So they said to me, you know, the whole team came into the hospital. It was lockdown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I hadn't seen him for a week.
Why?
Because it was lockdown. It was COVID.
You couldn't go to the hospital.
So I think after about 6 days, they gave me exemption. Okay. I was probably the only one that got exemption.
Right.
And now that I think about it, I'm like, did they know? Because we were waiting for a biopsy to come back. So,
okay.
You know,
so you think maybe they gave you an exemption because they knew, and obviously,
but they hadn't said anything to us at that point.
Right,
anyway, I got an exemption, and they rang me one day and they were like, "Oh, we're having a meeting at the in his room, and you know, you need to be there by like 11 o'clock." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." Anyway, so then the whole team came in and they told us at that point that, you know, the cancer had returned and there was nothing they could do about it.
Okay.
So he was sitting to the left of me and he was speaking to the professor, and the professor had his whole team in that room.
Yeah.
And then one of the nurses was standing next to me and she was like, you know, comforting me and I was crying and I had said to her like,
Did you cry in front of him?
I did.
Sorry, did he know that he was that they were?
Yeah, so they came in and the professor said, look, the biopsy came back and the cancer's returned to your small intestine.
Yeah.
Now, they had done like 23 repairs on his small intestine
23.
when they did. Yeah, he went through like a 12.5-hour surgery.
Wow.
So they did 23 repairs on the small intestine and then it came back. And when it came back to the small intestine and really aggressive. Right. So there was nothing they could do, right? So they stood there and the professor said, look, the biopsy's come back and you know, it's come back to your small intestine. Yeah. It's really aggressive and unfortunately there's nothing that we can do. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, can we do more chemo? Can we do, you know, radiotherapy, immunotherapy, like anything? Mm-hmm. And the professor said, you know, like my role is to save life. Mm-hmm. But when there's nothing I can do, I have to tell you that there's nothing I can do. And so he was talking to Mick at that point and they were just saying like, you know, if you want to stay here in the hospital, that's fine. If you want to go home, we can organise palliative care for you at home. Or if you want to go to a hospital closer to your home, then we can arrange for that as well.
But did they tell him how long they thought he had left to live?
So then the nurse was standing next to me and then I was crying and I turned to the nurse and I said, I'm afraid to ask you what the prognosis is. And then she said to me, I'll never forget, she was like, darling, you know, anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks.
Right.
He didn't hear that.
Yeah, okay.
And I didn't tell him that.
Yeah.
He just knew that there was nothing more they can do for him.
Yeah.
So then they left and I remember sitting there and I was like, but how am I going to do life without you? Like, how am I going to, you know, like the kids, like how are the kids going to grow up without you? Like, and that was when he was like, he was such a trooper, honestly. He never showed a sign of weakness.
Right.
Maybe once during chemo because, you know, chemo takes a toll on you. So, but not once. And he looked at me and he said, don't listen to them. I can live for 5 years. I can live for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then he died 2 days later.
Right.
And it was 11:07 at night. It was a Friday night. Mm-hmm. And I remember just it was really weird because that day I had to get COVID tested every 3 days. Mm-hmm. I slept there. I was sleeping there. They allowed me to sleep there. When they knew that he was like terminal, they said during COVID, they were like, give us a little, like the smallest list.
Yeah.
Like mum, brothers, nobody else.
Okay.
They had to approve it. And every 3 days, they also had to get a COVID test.
Oh, right.
So on the Thursday, I had slept there Thursday night. Friday morning, I had to get the test done.
Right.
And every time like I would go to the bathroom, he would get louder.
Okay.
And then I'd pop my head out and I'm like, are you okay? And he was like, like just making these noises. When I'd sit next to him, he would be fine. But the second I'd get up and I'd walk into the bathroom, he would get louder. And I thought, man, I can't leave him, but I need to go and get this test.
Right.
So I rang my mother-in-law and I said, like, when are you coming? She's like, I'm on my way. Do you need anything? And I said, I just need to go and get a COVID test, but I don't want to leave him.
Yeah.
I just couldn't leave him. Like, every time I not even left it, like he had his own room. Yeah. The bathroom was in his room. Like I just walk like not even a meter away and he was, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I can't leave him.
Yeah.
Anyway, she arrived. I went and did the COVID test. I came back at this point. He was like not really, he was breathing but sleeping, not really alert, not talking.
Yeah.
Anyway, his family had come and then about 10 o'clock maybe, they left.
Right.
One brother stayed with me.
Right.
Because I was just too scared.
Yeah.
I was asking his brothers, like, is he going to die tonight? Like, I don't even know why I'm asking that. Like, they're not going to know. But
you say some interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, do you think it'll happen tonight? Yeah. And then they're like, you know, we don't know. We can't. And then one of his brothers was like, did you want someone to stay with you? And I said, please. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what I would have done if I was on my own. Like, like I try and picture me being on my own in the room when he took his last breath. I don't know how I would have handled that.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway, so one brother stayed with me and the rest left. I got up to go to the bathroom and I hadn't even I think I just opened the door and 1 foot into the bathroom.
Yeah.
And he took his last breath.
Really?
And then it still rings in my ear.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember just hugging him, being on top of him and just hugging him.
Yeah.
And just crying.
Yeah.
And crying.
Yeah.
But I remember asking my brother-in-law, what time is it? When it happened, I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why I would have cared about that.
I know, but
I didn't know that the doctors then come in and assess and pronounce
the death. Well, how are you supposed to know?
Announce the death?
Yeah.
What did I say?
Pronounce. No, but isn't it pronounced?
Whatever, babe.
Whatever it is, but you didn't know. You weren't supposed to know. How would you know?
Right. And I didn't know that. I thought I needed to tell them what time he died. I swear that's what I thought.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
But this is me on top of him.
Yeah, and you're like,
and then looking up going, what time is it, Gus? What time is it? And he's like, it's 11:07.
Yeah.
And I'm like I just didn't know, right?
Yeah.
Well, no. What happens after that is you call the nurse comes in, then the nurse calls for the doctor.
Yeah.
The doctor comes.
Yeah.
And then the doctor makes the assessment. And then at the time that the doctor calls it, that's the time that they record.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think in my mind, I needed to tell them what time he died.
Yeah, you were like, you needed
I'd never been through,
of course.
don't get me wrong, I've experienced death before, grandparents, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I've never... Not on this level.
Of course.
And definitely not having, I've never been a part of or have had to have organised.
That's right.
A funeral or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? So
of course.
I didn't know. I'm shit, I need to tell them what time he died.
You need to know. You have to,
I
you're responsible for all of this.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, and so at that point, my brother-in-law called the rest of his other brothers and his mum and my mum.
Gosh, that's hard. Yeah. That's hard, especially if they're not there at the time to make a phone call.
They had just gotten home.
Yeah, that's really
hard. And so they
hard.
got back in the car and then they came back.
Yeah, that's
And I remember
really
Nick
hard.
had a really good relationship with all of the nurses and the doctors on the ward.
Yeah.
They loved him and he loved them.
Yeah.
And one of his favorite nurses, he was on shift and my brother-in-law called to him and then he said, I think my brother's passed.
Yeah.
So then he walked into the room and he put his hand on his head.
Yeah.
And then he closed his eyes, even though his eyes were closed, but he just made sure that he was resting.
Yeah.
And he said, I need to call the doctor. And then he went out and he called the doctor. And then by the time they came, it was past midnight.
Yeah.
You know? And then the family came back and again, there was this little list.
Yeah.
And it was such a shame because
it's all right.
He was really close to his nephews and his nieces.
Yeah. And they couldn't be there, right?
Couldn't be there.
Yeah.
And I know
hard.
till this day, it really affects some of them.
Of course it would. Yeah.
Because not only couldn't they be there, but they couldn't even be there in the lead up because it was COVID.
Yeah.
So they hadn't seen him for a while.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
And then to not see him, not be able to go to the hospital and see him then. But then even the next day, they couldn't even see him then.
Right.
When they washed the body and
it was still because of the COVID
It
rules.
was 10 people maximum.
Wow. Yeah, that's hard.
And
that's really hard.
I know that they still find.
Of course they would.
Yeah,
of course they would.
Yeah, it's a trigger for them.
Yeah.
Every time they think about that, I know that affects them a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because they couldn't come, you know?
Yeah.
And it was really sad.
Yeah.
That there was just a limited amount of people.
I know that is hard. That was a bad time.
And like, because Mick was the youngest, like, again, he's 16 years older than me. So like the eldest nephew is like a year younger than me.
So
right? They weren't like, oh, he's my uncle. Yeah. They were like, he's my brother.
Yeah, that's right. They're on that same level. Yeah,
exactly. And they had the most amazing relationship. He had an amazing relationship with all of his nieces and nephews.
That's beautiful.
But he was more of like a mate, more of like an older brother.
Yeah, because he's that, that's right. And they're not kids, you know. They know, Exactly. No, I get that.
So I know that was like really challenging. Yeah. And then, you know, packing their stuff.
From the hospital?
Was, that was just.
Yeah. I don't think I did any of that. I think I just took his phones because his phones were like, you know, when you joke around before, like, you know, I always say, I'm like, if I die, like, bury my phone, right? Or like, you know, I'll tell my best friend, like, you wipe that shit. Like, you do not let anyone. So, and I remember my husband, like, was always like, you get my phones and you just keep them forever, you know? So that's a weird thing, but I was like, I got to have his phones. His phones have to be with me. Like, no one can look at them. No one can, like, they have to be with me. So I just remember the phones, but I don't actually think I don't even know. I think maybe my brother-in-law or someone packed his stuff, or I don't know what happened. It was all very, as I said, I had never experienced this traditional or religious or cultural, whatever you want to call it, way of doing things. So I remember after he passed away, as I said, I'm a smoker. I have cigarettes.
I was too. You know, I only stopped smoking when he was in hospital, like towards the end.
It's an odd time to stop.
Well, I'll tell you why. Heavy. Because when he was in hospital, and this was like early on in his, like during his stay and before his operation, I was going up and down like no problem, right? Yeah. But then it got to a point where I couldn't leave him. I didn't want to leave him.
So you just stopped. Yeah, I get that.
And because of that whole lockdown period, and I was so I just thought, man, I'm going to vape.
Yeah.
And I'm going to vape in his bathroom and no one will know. If anyone's listening to me from St. George Hospital, I apologize.
She had to do what she had to do, guys.
I had to do what I had to do. And so I'd go into the bathroom and I'd just vape in his bathroom. Right? Yeah. And then that was for me, I didn't have to leave and go downstairs, especially when no one's there.
Yeah.
And so that's how I stopped smoking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm still vaping.
Yeah, but you're just a different. No, I totally get that. So I remember, so what happened was, I think that last hospital stay, he was in hospital for about 3 weeks. The first week and a half, I would say he was doing pretty well. Like it was hard to believe that they thought he had, you know, a week left in him because he was doing really well. Second part of that stay, he started to go downhill. And I'll never forget, Lana probably still doesn't know this till this day, but look, I've never experienced someone dying. I don't know what it means to make their death comfortable by giving them morphine. I didn't know any of that, right? So I remember Lana had called me just to check in on me, and I think I was either going to get my son or back to the hospital, something. There was a lot of back and forth trips, and she said, you know, what's going on? What's the update? And I said, oh, you know, not much. He's on heavy morphine, blah, blah. I thought that was a pain thing, not pain to prepare them for their passing. I thought it was just cancer pain relief, right?
Right.
And I'll never forget, and it made sense after, but she goes to me, I said, oh yeah, he's just on morphine, baby, no, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking, in that moment, I thought, why is she saying that? Was it like, all right, like, happy up, doll, like nothing's happened. I just said he's on morphine. And I never forget, she's like, oh, babe, you know, started to comfort me. And I'm like, I don't know what she's on about. Anyway, all right, hun, no problem. Thanks for the call, whatever. And then after, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I didn't know that that's something that they do. I didn't know how anything worked. And to be honest, sometimes
you wouldn't know, but if you've not experienced.
No, of course not. And sometimes
even like cancer, like you're not going to know.
Yeah, and you assume that cancer causes pain. Yeah. Obviously, they're going to need heavy meds 100%. To help with the pain.
Yeah.
So that last week and a half, he was going downhill, and I remember the 3 nights leading up to it were probably, oh my goodness, the worst 3 nights of my life. And we'll cover that when we talk about like trauma and moments that have stuck with us, because there's nothing, those 3 nights were like a living nightmare.
Horrible.
Nightmare, babe. Like feeling like you have the responsibility of making sure he's still alive all night is like horrible.
It is
horrendous, right? Like, I'm exhausted. I'm dead. I'm sleeping on, I think I was on a pull-out bed. My in-laws were great. Like my sister-in-law had all these blankets for me. She made it really comfortable. I was like, it was like a little bed, but I'm stressed, right? Like this, my husband making a noise. I'm like, is that something?
That's
is
right.
that what, are you breathing? Is
You're up like every 10 minutes.
You can't, right? It is extremely traumatic. And I think the last 2 or 3 nights I had my brother-in-law stay with me, because I was like, I can't do this. No. I'm like, at the time, I think I was like 23.
Yeah.
I'm not fit for this. I can't handle it. Yeah. I'm here to support my husband. Absolutely. I'm super strong in front of him. I've got his back. But when he's out of it on morphine, in and out of sleep and whatnot, I'm like crumbling. I can't do this.
It's like, what do I do if something happens?
Exactly. And that's
how I felt, right?
100%. And that's why I find it admirable, people that choose to go home and take their part. Like I would never do it personally. I admire you, because I'm like, you're going to do this on your own? Yeah. How do you know? Like that to me, I remember when they gave that option, I'm like to everyone, sorry, I can't. There's no way. I can't.
100%.
Right? So anyway, so I remember after he passed, they gave you an opportunity to say your goodbyes. I had a bit of privacy with him. We had all the family in and out, friends saying goodbye, whatever.
Was he awake at this point?
No, he had passed away by this stage.
Okay, yeah.
He had one morning where he got up, but he was quite erratic and quite out of it. I think it was about 3:30 a.m. And that was the last time he woke up. I didn't know that, but I remember he woke up at 3:30 a.m., hadn't woken up again, was still breathing and everything.
Yeah.
But then I asked one of the nurses, and there were some lovely nurses at Lifehouse. I asked one of them, it was about, the afternoon, 2:30, 3 o'clock. I was like, I was pretty strong. Like I'm like, give me the facts. I can handle it. I just need to know what's going on, because I don't know what's happening. And I said to her, is he going to wake up again? And she's like, no, probably not. And I'm like, okay, it's okay. I'm okay. I've got it. I've got it under control. That's okay. I really had myself together. Again, don't know how, just did. So that happened. And then, he must have passed away that night. So after I had my private time with him, everyone was having their moment. I went downstairs, and mind you, this was within half an hour, probably within 20 minutes of him passing away. I'd gone downstairs. I was at the front of the hospital. Crowds were starting to gather. We had my husband was like, he was so loved. He had so many friends.
Yeah.
We had the riot squad come to the hospital because
Sorry, what?
Because there were too many boys. And
Stop.
Yeah, babe, I swear to God. I actually thought like maybe one of his cousins was like had a warrant out for his arrest and they were at the hospital. Like, why is the riot squad here? And they're like, oh no, like the nurses called because there's like 100 boys here. Like,
so why didn't the nurses just tell you, hey, listen, we need to tone it down?
I think they were scared that because there were big boys, like a lot of boys there. Like maybe they were worried, like if we say like it's a sensitive time. If we tell them, guys, you got to leave.
Okay,
imagine what they're a couple nurses on a night shift. It's midnight by this stage, you know. So we had the riot squad come, right? And boys were starting to gather in crowds outside the hospital. And I just remember sitting there outside having a cigarette, trying to like not sure what's going on. And the funeral car pulls up, right? And I'm like, oh, it's not for him, surely. It's been 20 minutes. Well, maybe I'm overdoing it. In my head, it felt like 20 minutes, right? Because you know
on, that same night?
Yes. Quick.
Who organised that?
Must have been my brother-in-law, I would assume. Or my
that night?
Babe, 20 minutes, half an hour max. The car pulls up and
after he passed?
Yes. And I thought, oh, it's a cancer hospital and this is like stage 4 patients here, right? So maybe someone else has passed away, maybe something. But then I saw the Islamic, like the writing on the side of the and I was car. Like, I don't like, surely not. And then I realized that it was for him, and I'm like, no. Hold on.
Where are we going?
Wait a second. But I didn't realize that things were that quick. And then obviously I found out later on that, you know, religiously they do say it's best to bury as soon as you can, which is fantastic. I'm so grateful that they organised that, because obviously if religiously that's, you know, that's amazing. So now looking back.
You understand it. Yeah.
But at the time I'm like, hold on. You're going to take him and I'm not going to see him again. Yeah. It's just been now. Like, wait, everyone wait, you know. So that was a lot. And I remember maybe some of his cousins were in an elevator, and they know that I have not been to a Muslim funeral before. So they tried to sort of explain to me what was going to happen, but you can't prepare this. You can't, you have to experience this to actually, you know, understand. So grateful for their explanation, 100%. But obviously, still, to me, I didn't know. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
you know, like, and this sounds crazy, but I was like, I called my sister-in-law, I think that morning, and I'm like, wait, what do I wear? Like, I didn't have clothes, guys. You're telling me I have to be there at 10 o'clock. I've just got home. Like, I don't know.
What am I wearing?
It was wild for me, right? I was like, this is quick. And with Greek Orthodox funerals, people are super dressed up, heels, like proper going out clothes, right?
But modest, right?
Yeah, modest and black, but going out, heels, right? Totally different.
No.
This is like, no.
Go in your trackies.
Sneakers, right? We're doing sneakers here. Yeah. And I'm like, are you sure? Am I going to be underdressed? Am I, you know, they're like, trust me. And obviously, thank God I had them to guide me in the right way. Otherwise, I wouldn't know. You can't ask a guy what to wear. And it sounds crazy. What do you wear to a funeral? What do I wear? Yeah. More important issues. Get it. But still, I don't know what's going on, right? Yeah. So that was really shocking for me, that whole process. And I think as well, the whole washing of the body, obviously the men go do that.
Can I ask? So after they washed his body.
That night.
Sorry?
They washed his body that night.
That night?
Yeah.
Did you go there?
No. I went to my mother-in-law's house. My brother-in-law's went there.
Did you see him after?
No, I saw him the next day.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but I didn't see him that night.
Okay, yeah, no, that's
fine.
Can
women go there? No. Can they?
Where?
To wash the body? No.
You can't be present when they wash the body. You can be there, but you can't be present when they wash the body. So you can't
be
see
where? Just
where they wash the body, but you're outside. Like you can't.
Right.
You can't
so
be
really,
in that
there's
room.
not a.
There wasn't a point for you to go.
No point in. Yeah. Okay.
But
so
were you able to see him like after that, like the next day?
Again, shock for me, right? We go to. I've only been to, I think, one funeral. No, two. My grandparents, and it's all very. This is just what. This is all I've experienced, right? So they have a viewing. I think open coffin. Pretty, you know what's going on. I've done two of them before, so I kind of get it. When we went to the mosque, I mean, I was just following the lead of my sister-in-laws, right? They were just leading the way. I was just following whatever they were doing. Mind you, don't know the language, right? So I can't understand anything anyone's saying. When the sheikh is talking, still can't understand anything. I'm like clueless in this, right? So when we went to the mosque, I didn't realize that they lay the body right in front of you, like on that silver table.
Yeah.
Just out there. Like
was it open?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know that was so, that was shocking. That was a lot.
Were you able to walk up to him?
Yeah. You can do, whatever I wanted, but I don't know, babe.
Could you kiss him?
I couldn't.
Right.
Because,
I couldn't either.
Which I don't know how I felt about that. Be angry, to be honest.
I was too.
I was like.
Do you want to know why I was angry?
Why?
Because when my grandfather passed away like, I don't know, a year and a half ago, like there were so many people walking up to my grandfather and kissing him on the forehead. And I'm like, but who are you? You're a female. How are you allowed to kiss my grandfather?
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
Why? No, wait. Why did you not kiss him?
Because they told me religiously I couldn't kiss him.
Oh, no. Guys, I'm going to be very open on this podcast. I had my period.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I thought you were saying.
Oh, no.
Okay. So let's just, because obviously there's going to be different people of different cultures and different religions listening, right?
Definitely.
So if it's that time of the month for you as a female, you cannot touch a dead body because they're clean.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's why I was angry, to be honest, inside. Obviously going to listen to the rules, whatever, respect that. And let me just say, when I say I was angry, not at the religion, just angry.
No,
you know, I understand that there are reasons for everything.
Yes.
I get all of that. But I was angry. I was, because I was like, one more time. Let me, just something.
Yeah.
I will not forget that. And
I couldn't. I
don't understand that.
Well, I always thought that, like, you know, my uncle had passed away and, you know, I was allowed to kiss my uncle on the head, like on his forehead.
So I was allowed to do
your
that. Grandfather.
My sorry?
I don't understand that then.
So then when it came to my husband, okay, I was told that, like, so with Mick, they didn't pick him up that night.
Okay.
Mick had a stroma bag and he had he had, you know, like cords and stuff attached to him.
Sure.
And so they needed to like kind of cover it up. And
that's right.
They couldn't just pick him up and take him and whatever, right? So not even the next day was when they picked him up.
Right.
And so then when we went to the mosque and they went to wash him, the men, like his brothers went in, my grandfather went in. Anyway, they went and they washed him. We waited outside. And then I got told after that, you know, he's been, like, they've cleaned him, he's cleansed. You're not allowed to go near him. You can go there, like you can see him, can't kiss him, can't touch him.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Just females or everyone?
Me. So his mum could. If he had sisters, they could.
What do you mean?
Like, which I don't know, because.
Oh, is it?
Because I'm like I know I'm not like no longer married to him anymore.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, I don't know.
Well, that's what I got told, right?
Okay.
But then when my grandfather passed away.
Did his wife kiss him?
No, so my grandmother passed before my grandfather.
Oh, okay.
However, there were like, you know.
Aunties.
His cousins.
Yeah.
Neighbours. And I'm like, what is going on here?
Did you ever get to the bottom of that?
So then there was another lady standing like in front of me and I was like, her husband had passed like not long before my grandfather.
Right.
And I'm like, hang on a second. How can everybody just sit here and I'm like, but I did with my uncle. Like I hugged my uncle. Like I kissed my uncle.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe because I was his niece, right? So that's how I thought about it.
Okay.
And then I was like, but then I saw all these randos just kissing my grandfather on the forehead. And I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Why are you allowed to do that?
Yeah, that's right.
And I wasn't allowed to kiss my husband on the head, right?
Yeah.
My husband.
Yeah.
And then I asked this lady, I was like, just out of curiosity, were you able to like kiss your husband when he passed? Like, or like come near him, kiss him on the head, hug him? She goes, of course I was. She goes, you weren't? And I'm like, no.
Can I ask, you don't have to answer, who told you that? You don't have to answer it.
My brother-in-law had told me that.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't a big deal. Like,
okay, I think it's a big deal.
It's a bit. No, what I mean by that is at the time I was like, I understood it. I understood it at the time. I was like, oh, okay, no problem. I was allowed to go near him. Like I was allowed to like go up to him and like see him.
Hold a hand? Like,
no, babe, I couldn't touch him.
Okay.
I couldn't even like that.
Really?
Yeah. And whatever, it was fine. But then like when my grandfather passes away and I see rando neighbor coming up to my grandfather, kissing and hugging my grandfather.
Of course. You're like, what? Yeah.
Why wasn't I allowed to do that?
I don't know if you just already answered this and it's gone already, but what about any other female people? Like,
no, so like mother, sister,
no, like neighbors.
No, nobody.
Okay.
So it wasn't just like me.
Yeah.
It was just
Nadine, you're out.
I know. It was just like any female
that wasn't
like
so anyone that he could marry,
auntie,
basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's interesting. I don't know. Can we fact check this?
I really want to fact check this.
I'm really interested.
But I have asked, and I am getting. There are people that say what my brother-in-law said.
Responses you've got,
said, no, it's not good. Like we've cleansed him. He's clean. He's
okay. I get
you
the
are now
theory
because he's not
behind it.
Well, the theory behind it is he's now passed, right?
Yeah.
So technically you're not married anymore.
Yeah, I understand that. No, I get the theory. I do.
So I understand that side of it. But then when I go and see all these randos
it's
doing
like,
it, and I'm like, I'm a little bit confused.
Yeah, no, I would be too. Yeah, no, okay, so that's a bit different. So mine was just purely because it was that time of the month for me, and obviously, which I was still mad about, to be honest. I mean, not anyone's fault.
No, I get
respect
that.
Respect it all. But I was like, this is my last time. Like, this is my last.
Definitely.
That's it. This is it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't, but it is what it is, and that's the way that it was. And, obviously, everything happens for a reason. So maybe God felt or knew that I wouldn't. Maybe if I did touch him, I remember with my grandfather, maybe, obviously they're really cold and, it's a bit, it's a lot. I do even remember
it is a lot.
Even my grandfather, the viewing, I don't think I'll ever, it's very interesting because I don't remember his funeral. I don't remember how I felt about the death. I don't remember anything, but I remember touching him, and that cold, stone hard is something I will never forget. Yeah. So maybe it was like for me, because obviously everything happens for a reason. So
I think the same thing, right? I think maybe like, obviously my brother-in-law didn't just make this up. Like he's received it from somewhere, and my brother-in-law's amazing, right? Like he's really religious. Yeah. He knows his shit.
Yeah. So and he would have just been, as well.
It's not about me in that moment. It's also about him.
For his brother and his soul going into, the afterlife.
That's exactly right.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's the thing with religion. 100%. There's a lot of mixed opinion, correct? So it's a little hard.
So in the moment I was like, of course, I get it.
Yeah.
But then like when I'm seeing all these other
with
people,
your
I was
grandfather,
like,
you would have been like, wait, so that's unfair. Yeah, I get that.
Definitely.
I totally understand that.
But again, like maybe it was for the same reason.
And you know what?
Like,
if we really look into it and we go back and get answers and whatever, and your brother-in-law is in the right, you're so thankful for that, right?
Totally.
Because your brother-in-law has he did the best thing for his brother, which is your
exactly
husband.
Right.
So you want people like that.
Definitely.
Definitely. But no, I get your stance from your grandfather, because it's like, I'm like, you kissing. Who are you?
The neighbor.
The poor neighbor. We have nothing against you. The neighbor, by the way.
The neighbor just randomly going up to my grandfather and kissing him on the head, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you kissing my grandfather on the head?
Leave your neighbor alone.
Oh,
God. So I think So yeah, that first 24
challenging,
shocking,
and then
for me.
Having to tell my kids the next morning.
Yeah, so talk about that, because obviously I'm not in that position.
So I went to, so obviously we were allowed to spend, I think they like, it was like 3.5 hours with Mick, or 3 hours with Mick after he passed.
3 hours?
I think so, something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice that you got to do that.
I think it was something like, I think I got home at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. Okay.
And it was lockdown, but I had my cousins staying with me.
Okay.
And they were with the kids.
How old were your kids at the time?
So my youngest was 7 and my eldest was 10.
Yeah, so they definitely know what's going on at that age. Yeah. Yeah.
I think, Liana was, maybe Liana was 11. I think she was turning 11.
Right.
Anyway, and so I came home and 2 of my cousins were there, and, you know, I don't even remember what happened. Like, I don't know what I did. I don't know how I don't know how I walked through the door.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. When I ask my cousins now, they'll say you were like, you know, he's not here anymore.
Oh, really?
He's not here anymore. He's gone. He's gone. Anyway, I honestly, I do not remember what I did that night, how I went to bed. I don't remember. All I know is that it was about 7 o'clock in the morning. One of my daughters was awake. I waited for the other one to wake up. Or I think I told one of them to just wake the other one up, because I needed to just sit down and talk to them. So they sat down and I just had to, you know, go through, if someone is sick and they go to hospital.
Oh, so you went
some people get better.
Yeah.
But then some people don't get better.
Right.
And they were just sitting there looking at me like, okay. And then I just said to them, like, Daddy's no longer with us anymore, and, you know, he passed. And they just screamed.
Really?
Screamed, and then just, like, started crying. And
really?
Yeah.
See, it's hard for me to understand their age, because I don't have kids that age, so I don't really know where they're at.
They were alert at that time. Like, they knew their dad was sick, but it was only until recently they asked me, like, the questions, like how and what happened and how was he before he died. And
but do they, like, so they would have understood death, right?
Yeah. My youngest really didn't, because...
But they knew that meant they weren't going to see him again.
My eldest did.
Okay, but not your youngest.
I don't think my youngest could fully comprehend.
Okay.
Just because looking back now, the things she would say when we would go to the cemetery would be like, you just know that she didn't get it. Like, she'd say things like, but why can't he just come home with us? Like, I don't understand. Okay. Why can't... And then I think we were going to the cemetery for the first time after the funeral, and she'd be like, oh, can we take, like, his clothes for him? Like, I don't think she really understood it.
Okay. Right.
And they were just, beside them. Like, I'm sure she understood something, like maybe I'm not going to see him again.
Yeah.
But I don't think she understood the full where they go after they pass.
And I mean, I think we should actually do a whole episode, to be honest, on kids, telling your kids, because I think there will be a lot of people out there that do, like, are widows that do have children, and I think it's really it's such a good insight. I mean, I can't offer anything when it comes to kids, but I'd love to know. I think we need to dedicate an entire episode on just, you know, but what I do, you know, just briefly, was there ever like a time, like a few months later, where they were like, oh, like, where's Dad? Or, oh, is like anything like that? Or was it pretty like...
No, they knew.
No, so they knew. Okay.
Yeah, they knew that was it. But say that, like, his death was like one of the hardest time in my life. But then I think telling
your kids would be, of course.
Just
I can't imagine them at an age where they actually understand. Like, I just like,
but like, just looking back now as well, like, remember driving home thinking, what am I going to say to them?
That's hard.
And my husband was so hands-on with the kids.
Yeah.
Like I was working and like he would do more, like his job he was in the morning, he'd get up early, which meant he would finish work early and which meant he would also be picking up the kids from school.
Yeah.
So I was working like I dropped them off in the morning and do a full day. I wouldn't get home till 7, 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So he was like, you know, doing homework, showering,
really hands-on,
making dinner, like really hands-on. Yeah. And they had he was so close to them. Yeah. He was their world, right?
Yeah.
And so it was,
especially girls, their dad is their world at that age.
And so, I think telling them was like till now, it just,
I don't know.
It breaks me. Like it really melts me. Like I just.
Yeah. And you know, out of everything you told me, that's the one thing where I'm like, I just can't. I just can't with your kids because I know that it's hard enough for us as adults to go through it and break it down for ourselves and what does that mean and what's my life going to look like and whatever. But kids, they're so innocent.
Yeah, and just, you know, you have to think about your grief, but then on top of that, you have to think about your children's grief.
Yeah.
And like their needs and what they need from you and you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And one of my daughters, she doesn't really talk about it. I remember when he passed, she would like look at a photo or like if we're looking through photos and she would see his photo, she would literally just launch the photo. Yeah. And I'd be like, oh, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And she'd say, I don't want to see it. It's just too sad. It's just too sad. And I'm like, okay, this one's not really going to open up.
Who was that, eldest or youngest?
My youngest, Celine.
Yeah, that's hard.
Now I think she is a little bit more open. I tried to get them counselling, just didn't really work.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, you think about your own grief and then I think I put that to the side maybe a little bit.
Of course, yeah. But you had to because they're the most important thing, right? Yeah, so making sure that their coping is huge. And, you know, when they're that age, they can't express properly. So it's even harder.
I'm forever like, even till now, I'll just be like. I bet
you are, yeah.
Are you okay,
Are you
Liana?
okay, yeah.
Are you okay, Celine? Yeah. They'll be like, yeah. They're probably not even knowing why I'm asking them that question.
100%. But right? As a mum,
just like, are you okay, Liana? Yeah. Are you okay, Celine? You okay, Mum? You okay? You know?
Yeah.
And I always tell them, like, whenever you want to talk to me about anything, you just come to me. And then literally like 2 weeks ago, we were sitting on the floor in my bedroom and we're having this full-blown discussion because they were asking me all the questions.
See, it'll just come. Yeah. It'll just come at many stages, I'm sure, in their lives as they get older.
And it's not that you don't want to tell them.
Yeah.
You just want to protect them.
Of course, yeah.
Protect them from, and I know they're going through pain, right?
Of course.
Like I know that, but if I can minimize it in a way.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's trying to minimize a negative effect on them growing up because I think those, you know, under 16 is where you build all your foundation, right? And that shapes you as an adult and you want to minimize the trauma as such, you know, and I think like, I don't want to say like I'm luckier that my son is younger, but in a way like I am because I don't really have to have that conversation for a long time, you know, and I think that it'll just be easier for me because he didn't know.
Like he's not going to remember.
He won't. So I think like, you know, there's not a better age for a kid to lose their parent,
no, of course not.
There are pros for sure to them being very young and not having. For me, what kills me with your kids is like memories.
Yeah,
having memories, holidays. They know their dad's in the house 24/7. They know who their dad is. My son didn't have that. Of course, we had memories together,
of course, and you've got photos and videos,
100%. But you know, what do their brains hold on to before 6 months? What do you don't like? I don't know. I'm not a specialist in kids, but I'm assuming it's probably quite little in comparison to someone being 10 years old. Like that is, I don't know. Your kids are such a soft spot for me. They make me weak and I cannot. I just like, but I think we should definitely talk about it in depth for people out there, because I think that that's one of the hardest things, to go home and face your children. How do you even, I mean, I could barely face other adults that asked me about my husband that didn't know, like something super random, our cleaner. And I don't even know you. I have no emotional attachment to you. You know what I mean? Yeah. But even her, I remember she called me, I think it was 2 days later, and she knew Mohammed was in hospital because I had to reschedule a clean. And she's like, how's he going? And I was like even that was like, oh, how do I tell her? And it's like, well, she's not going to get emotionally affected by, she doesn't know us well, but it was still hard for me to even get it out. So imagine getting that out to your kids. That's for me, that is like, I don't know, my heart, I don't know, it just makes me really emotional.
I know. It's hard. It really is hard, but kids are resilient.
They are. They so really are, aren't resilient. They're amazing. Yeah. Kids are amazing. And you know what? Like, well, I don't know.
Again, like sometimes I think, where do we get the strength from? They also get that strength.
Of course they do. Yeah. Absolutely. Kids are strong. They're tough. But I think,
And I think just having a good support system, friends, family around them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's really, really important.
For sure.
But yeah, we'll
get into that in detail, because I think I think it'll help a lot of people with their children, and because you might be ahead of the process for some other people that are listening. It'll be helpful. Definitely, how you navigated everything with your children. So it'll be good to dive into that.
Definitely.
So back to what we were talking about before. So, obviously first 24 was like more shocking, I would say, and more in denial, or not really processing what's going on.
You don't process what happens the 24 hours after.
And something really interesting that I say to people a lot, like close people to me, when they were asking, how are you feeling, whatever, because they just passed away, say an hour ago, the next day, your pain is not I miss them, right? It's been 6 hours. It's not you miss them. It's like, what is going on? What is happening?
What just happened? How did it happen?
Yeah.
I found myself at 11:07 on Saturday night going, wow, he died like 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
Then Sunday night going, shit, it's been 48 hours now.
Yeah.
Like you really don't know. You're in shock, and I think a lot of denial.
It's all denial. You don't know what you can't process. It's way too soon to process. And I think I remember I did strange things. I'll tell you, strange things,
what?
Right? Just things where if I was in my right mind and had my shit together, I wouldn't have done, right? Okay. So this is not weird, but like, for example, I remember when he passed away, I was still in the room, and my my two best friends and my mum, and my dad, 4 people, I text them all the same thing. He's gone, to all 4 people, right? And I'm like, if now thinking about it, I mean, why were you thinking of that, texting them right in that moment? Why was that important? But I just felt like, I don't know, like why did you do that? Why did you have to tell them right then and there? Why did you do that so quick? It was weird to me. Now looking back at it, it's a bit weird, babe. Like, but I just felt like,
I feel like you wanted them to know.
I did, because these were my 4, like my dad was on the journey. I mean, my dad lives in another country, but he was still on the journey. We'll FaceTime and keep him updated. My mum, of course, was every second of the way. She was looking after my son. So I was constantly updating his this, his that, his whatever. And then my best friends, my 2 best friends, they were just on the journey with me, check in, text in. So I don't know. I just felt like, and then I had another friend, Amani, who was, her and her husband, I met through my husband. They were friends with him first. Yeah. Very good friends of ours. she was at the hospital when he passed away, her and her husband.
Right.
And I remember I walked out of the room and she's like, oh, do you want me to do anything? And I was like, just call Yelena. I don't know. I was like, call Yelena. I think that's all I said to her. And I don't know. She just like, sorry.
No, you're right.
She rang her and I don't know, Yelena was really like there for me. I mean, she's always been there for me since I met her and I was a teenager, but she was very, very supportive. Like she just, and you know, she is someone that runs multiple businesses. She's got 3 children. She's got a husband. She's got a busy life, you know, but she put it all aside. She was making my son pureed food and bringing it to the hospital because he had just started solids.
Yeah.
She would take time out of her day, leave her children with her mum who was, sorry.
No, you're okay.
With her mum who lived so far out west to come and just sit in reception. Like she didn't even want to bother me. She didn't want to take any time away from like me being with my husband. She would just sit in reception. She'll send me a message. Oh, you know, don't come out. Just want you to know I'm here if you need anything. Like she was amazing. So I asked Amity to just call her and she did. And she came to the hospital. She went with me to my mother-in-law's that night. I mean, it was only my in-laws and a few relatives there. Yelena was there just supporting me. She drove me to the funeral. No, maybe I went to the funeral with my in-laws and she drove me back from the funeral. She was just amazing. I can't even, you know, for me, someone like that in that time is one of those people that it doesn't matter what happens to your friendship. Like
you will forever remember that.
You can't. That's something that nothing else will override. You know, like you just don't forget something like that. It was huge.
You can't forget something like that.
Huge. And I think, you know, people think, oh, that's what friends are for. But there was a lot of people that weren't there for me that I thought would have been. Oh, and I thought for sure, you know, if you like if you told me before, pick 3 people that you know are going to be there and, you know, you win $1 million if they're there. They weren't there.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, she was like I'll never, ever forget that. So anyway, yeah, like that's what happened for me. And then the funeral happened and that was like the first 48 hours for me, you know, very shocking. I don't know if I even cried because I think I actually don't think I cried at his funeral, not once.
Oh my God, I don't think I did either.
Yeah.
I cried, I think when I saw when I saw them take him out of the car, I think I just stood there and I stared at it and that's when I cried.
Yeah.
I don't think I cried either. I don't remember crying. I think that was the only time I cried.
Yeah. I actually didn't see him at the funeral. I know that sounds weird, but I didn't see him.
I didn't see him either.
Oh, did you not see him?
No, I had to stand way back.
Yeah.
But I saw them take him out of the car and then I didn't watch them bury him.
Right.
I was standing back.
Yeah.
But I only went like to the grave once they buried him.
Okay. So
but then we had like all these people rock up. Don't forget, mid-COVID, we had police rock up.
Oh.
Yeah.
To the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
What, to tell you guys
Yeah, we had a lot of people come and we weren't allowed to have a lot of people come.
It's a funeral, so people want to be there. And you know what aggravates me the most? I mean, I'm not going to get into COVID stuff, but you did all of this and now you don't care if anyone has COVID.
Right.
So people missed out on saying goodbye to their loved ones. We'll never see them again. Mm-hmm. And now who cares? Oh, you have COVID. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry. It's fine.
That's
just
right.
Sneeze in your elbow.
Oh, babe, it was like there was, you know, the cemetery. People like go through the cemetery when they're like going on a bike ride.
Yeah.
Like
literally, right?
so
odd
random
choice of
Yeah, that's the path. We're going to ride our bike. We're going cycling. We're going to cycle through the cemetery.
Weird.
And I think it was a cyclist that like rang the police.
Oh, no, I can't with that. If you're that cyclist, you're sick. I'm sorry. You're sick. That's sick.
Like, why can't you turn a blind eye to
serious?
that? Like, what do you?
It's a funeral. They're not having a party.
That's right. And then they rocked up.
Oh, wow. Were they nice?
They were nice.
Okay.
But when everyone saw police, it was after they had buried him.
Okay.
Literally everyone jumped in their cars
left
and drove off.
Yeah.
And so my brother spoke to them and, you know, he said, look, like his wife and his children are here and they just want to go down.
And surely that was okay.
They allowed me to.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I'd hope so. Yep. That's good.
But they took like details, like my brother's details. Oh, I don't think they did anything with it. I don't know what they were. So they're probably like, we need to just
say that we've been
done
here. And
that's right.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, it was like we couldn't have a normal funeral for him.
That's really sad.
And
that's really sad.
It's really sad.
It's shitty. It's really shitty.
That's right.
And I think like he deserved to 100%. Have everyone there. Yeah. You know.
And like he was so loved. Like so loved. Like when I say he impacted people, he left an impact on people. Yeah. Like I cannot tell you. Like I had people messaging me and calling me that I didn't even know who. I didn't even know who these people were. Yeah. He had gone to Europe with them in like 1990 or something, you know. And they're like, you know, he was. We loved him. He was the best. He was he had such a beautiful soul, and you know, and so that's I don't know. I just it kind of like. It does. It bothers me. Upsets me that I couldn't give him the funeral.
It's a bit hurtful. I mean, just the timing of it all, you know, I guess was like really unfortunate because, you want him to be like commemorated in that way, you know, like he deserved, but you know, that's out of everyone's control. There's not anything. No, there was nothing done.
That, you know, So, and even like, I didn't want people to, not people like his family, like his nephews and nieces, like I felt responsible. And I don't know why this is so weird, but like I felt responsible that they couldn't come. And I know they don't, but they don't think that.
Of course they
don't. But I just, it was, you know, when like, I had to give that list.
I know.
But even though like, you know, obviously his brothers and his mum, I had to give that list to the hospital, you know?
Yeah.
But like I had to give that list to the hospital. You mean. Yeah. And that means that, you know, like I couldn't put them on the list.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
I know. And that's what I mean where, you know, when you feel guilty about things that someone else would think, oh, you're being ridiculous. But you have nothing to do with it.
Even his nephews and nieces would think I'm being ridiculous. Of course,
everyone would. I think you're being ridiculous, but I get it.
It's not my fault, and they understand that, you know. But I just feel guilty that his nephews and nieces were not able to be there with him by his side when he passed. 100%. So
absolutely. No, I get that. I get that. That makes a lot of sense. It's our little internal things that make us feel guilty. And that's what I meant. I don't know if we said it in this episode or the other one. I can't even remember now. But about, you know, people, it's not so much people that make me feel guilty because I know myself and I know how I feel and I know what I've done and what I haven't done, etc. It's more things internally for me that I feel guilty about or that will make me feel sad or uncomfortable. And most of the times they're things that the average person would be like, what's wrong with you? That's just weird.
That's
like
right.
There's nothing, you know. Yeah. You know how... I mean, I don't know if you did weird stuff, but I definitely did weird things.
Like what? I did a lot of weird things.
I'll give you one really weird one.
Yeah, tell me.
And I put this down to just, you're like out of your mind when you're grieving. You're just a different person.
You really are.
So as I said, when we went to his funeral, I didn't see him because I was just following my in-laws, just following the girls around, didn't know what was happening. They were sort of at the back. It was only until someone, I'm not sure who it was, I remember she grabbed me and she's like, no, like you need to be up the front. Who was it? I don't know. And I'm grateful she did that because no one else did that. She grabbed me. She's like, no, that's your husband. You need to be right at the front there, you know? And I was like, thank God I can see something now. I mean, I didn't want to see everything, but, let me be in like the, like, you know, it's my husband. I don't know you and your friend and who you are. I've been with my husband for how many years? I've never seen you in my life. Why are you at the front? Let me be there,
at
right?
The front,
And so about maybe the next month after his funeral, I felt like I had let him down because I didn't watch everything. Like, why didn't I get up right at the front, watch everything, see you being lowered, be there? I felt like I should have been there, like, with you right up until the end, right?
But you were with him right up until the end, you know.
I was, but because I don't know, because I was present, but I wasn't like present. I wasn't there. I was at the back somewhere. And I felt like throughout the whole relationship, I've always been next to him, always strong next to him. I've got his back. You can tell me the worst news. The doctors can say anything. I don't care. We are a team. We are strong. I've got your back through everything. I will never, ever, never let you down. You can always count on me. Right up until the last time you spoke, I was there. The last time you opened your eyes, I was there. The last time you breathed, I was there, right? So I felt like I had to do it all the way up until the end. I had to be there till they put dirt on you, and that's it. I've done my job, right? And I just didn't feel like I did that. I felt like I did him a disservice, and I felt like he obviously, I know he's not going to be disappointed in me.
But you were
that's
there,
what
right?
I felt.
Was it just because you didn't watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I felt like, no, you pick yourself up, go there and suffer. Watch the whole thing. Watch him until you make sure everything's, you watch everything. Like, I felt like at the end, he was so vulnerable. He was on so many drugs. I felt like he was my baby. Do you know what I mean? He had gone from this grown man, this big, looking after me to, no, it's my, I have to look after you. Right?
Them. Yeah.
So that's what I felt. So I became obsessed with finding a video.
Oh my God, stop it.
This is what I mean crazy, right? I text everyone at that funeral. Did anyone record it? I did, babe. Does anyone have a video of the funeral? Like a crazy woman. I sound like a fucking psycho, right? Yeah.
You wanted the video.
Yeah, because I had to see it out. Babe, you don't know how heavy it weighed on me.
I know what you mean. You mean like because it didn't happen in the moment.
Yeah.
Right now, let me go through and suffer and let me watch this video.
Let me feel all the pain because I'm going to show you from the day I met you till the day that you were buried, I was there. I was strong enough to be there, had your back. Yeah. I did it all, right?
Yeah.
So I was like a loony. Babe, people were probably getting texts from me thinking she's fucking lost the plot.
Babe, someone who were you texting?
Everyone I could find.
Were you asking for people's numbers that you didn't have?
Yeah. Are you serious? Yeah. I'd text my brother-in-law. I'd text my husband's friends. I was texting everyone. Does anybody have a video? Oh, babe. And you know what? People were really hesitant. One person videoed it and he said, look.
So you did get the video?
I got it. I was going to get that. I was going to see this through, babe, for my husband.
Did you explain to people why?
No, because it wasn't anyone's business. Okay. It's just between me and myself. So everyone was
Did they ask you why?
Nope. They were just really concerned.
Like so crazy lady
everyone, nut job, right? So everyone was like, look, one person did film. It hasn't been shared anywhere. Okay. Nobody's been sent it, but
maybe they felt like
I'll tell you what happened.
You were going to get angry that they
No. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
and they
like,
just
they're sharing it around. Yeah.
They explained that, look, I had been through death. My brother passed away and I would have really liked if someone filmed it and nobody did. And so they're like, I just wanted to do that in case ever any one of the immediate family, not cousins, not nothing, just his siblings.
So who was it?
I don't actually remember. I can't remember now. I think it might have been their cousin.
Okay.
Right? So, but they were like to me, I don't know, like, are you sure you want this? And I'm like, oh yeah, like I need this. Yeah, I need this. I was ready, right? So,
well, they're going to know now why you needed it.
Yeah, so, well, at least they won't think I'm like completely loony, right? Because it looked weird at the time. Anyway, I got the video and I was like, I was ready. And after I watched it, babe, obviously it was a hard watch.
How long?
The video?
No, how long after?
Oh, I'm not sure. Maybe a matter of weeks could have been.
Yeah.
But I was like.
So still like quite raw.
But babe, I was on it after the first day. I was feeling like shit, babe.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding? You went through all that. You've seen so much. You watched him die and you couldn't even get yourself. Like, what are you doing? You are his support. You're his best friend. You're his, me and my husband were, babe, you couldn't. Yeah. Me and him were like tight as, and you couldn't even do that for me. That's how I felt. Like he would be like, are you kidding? Right at the end, where were you?
You know, he probably wouldn't have even wanted you there.
Yeah, of course. I know my husband. Of course he would.
Do you know what I mean?
He didn't even want me at his chemo sessions.
Yeah.
You think he's going to want me at his funeral? Of course. But I had to.
Back in in that moment, it's very different. Like when you look back at things that you had done or things that you thought of, you look back and you're like, what the fuck was I thinking? It's because you're literally beside yourself.
Yeah.
You are literally beside yourself.
And do you know what it was for me? Babe, I'm at a funeral with hundreds of people. They're all the same. They come from the same place. They speak the same language. They're the same culture. I'm this random Greek girl that doesn't know the culture, doesn't know the tradition, cannot speak a word of Arabic. I don't know. Can I say I want to go up there? I don't know.
See, we couldn't go up there. The women couldn't go up there.
And that's
we had to
quite standard practice, right? Women stay at the back, men are up the front.
But even then, because of COVID, we couldn't I mean, in the end, it was like we were all huddled anyway. But at the beginning, we were trying to keep that social distancing and not have too many people in the one area. And so if it seemed like there were like groups of 3 or 2 or everyone was kind of spaced.
Yeah.
But
at the end, of course. And, you know, I felt like I couldn't really have a voice in that moment because I didn't know what is the right way, what is the wrong way, what is not permissible, literally not permissible Islamically. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to disrespect anything. So I didn't feel like I was in my space where I could have a voice. And even that disappointed me because you know what, babe? If that was me and my husband was at my funeral and let's just say things weren't done. You would want him. My husband would have. Do you think he wouldn't? Do you think he's going to stand? No. Of course. My husband would have been like, everyone get the fuck out of my way. That's my wife. Do you know what I mean? And I know he would want me to do the same thing because my husband was very pro me. If I felt a certain way, if I wanted to do something, my husband was always supportive, always had my back. And he knew I would never do anything that's out of line or out of anything. But my husband knows that so I was just so disappointed in myself and I hate that. And it always like I mean, I'm not super emotional about it now, but I do, it bothers me. It really bothers me. And I'm so grateful for, I think it was our friend Christine, who owns a takeaway shop that we always used to go to. My husband was really good friends with her and like a bit of that group and whatever. I think she actually grabbed me and brought me to the front. I think. So if it was her, I'm so grateful for her because I mean, I still didn't see anything or get to be where I wanted to be when I wanted to be, but at least I was closer and I felt a little bit more like, I don't know.
But also, again, it takes us back to everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And maybe you weren't meant to see the start of it or maybe you weren't meant to.
But then I did, didn't I?
Well.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah.
That was crazy one over here. Texting people.
What a lunatic. That's a bit, see what I mean by I did a bit of loopy shit? Yeah. And there's more. I've done loopy shit. Yeah.
Oh, we all do loopy shit.
Yeah, you don't realise at the time, but it's a hard time. You go a little bit hard time. I don't want to say you go crazy, but you go a little bit crazy. But that's what I'm saying.
When I say you're beside yourself, you actually are doing things that you would never looking back now, you're like, what was I thinking?
Embarrassed.
Why did I do that? Yeah. What did this person think of me? Yeah. Like, but again, you're not in your right mind.
You're actually not in your right mind.
You're not in your right mind.
And you know what?
You don't know how to process what's just happened to you. And so
100%.
let alone be sane.
And you know what? When I look back, everyone close to my husband, and I'm talking siblings close, parents, siblings, me as a wife, we all said loony things. All of us.
Of course.
We all said. So I'm really not embarrassed because I don't care.
And you shouldn't be embarrassed.
No, I'm not. No. But like sometimes, like I laugh about it now. I'm like, jeez, Kayla, get it together. Yeah. Weird thing to say.
You know, like we did, or my brother-in-laws did some illegal shit. Not illegal, but like, they did some, like, they didn't get their COVID results in time.
Rebels.
So they dodged that COVID test to get into the hospital.
Yeah, but you do. You just do. You don't care. They don't care. That's their brother. Like, they don't give a shit.
They were like, I don't give a shit what the hell I do. I need to be at the hospital and I need to see
you can't. It's
my brother.
If you know.
They dodged. Sorry again if you're listening from St. George Hospital.
Sorry, guys.
But they had to do it,
but
because
you know
if
what,
they
babe,
didn't, they weren't going to be able to spend those couple of hours with their brother.
What, babe? Like in those sort of moments where you know that, okay, this person's
not going to care. You'll do whatever.
You'll do anything. You don't care. Anything. And you never regret it either, because it's like, yep, I did that and I got to spend time with my person, and that's it. You never regret that.
That's exactly right.
Yes. All right. Let's wrap up because we could go on forever. Yep. So we will be back next week with another episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I did.
Yeah, this one was, I think this one was a bit more full on and, with really raw emotions.
Yeah. Well, we're very honest on this podcast. You know what I mean? It's all real, how we felt, how we didn't feel, no judgment. And again, just trying to help other people in our position, or giving people an understanding of, if you have a friend that's lost someone or a family member, maybe you can listen to this and it might be beneficial. Like,
it will relate to people.
It will, definitely.
In some way, you know, like.
For sure. Well, I hope you guys got something out of it, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.